All right. Yeah, just tell me when you see it, and then I'll start. It says it's live. So.
Yeah, I want to be patient because it popped up when I wasn't expecting it. There it is, new notification.
All right.
So I'm clicking on it, and I'm clicking on the play button, and you're live.
Okay. Thanks.
Just tell me when you see it.
Okay. Here we go. Okay. I can hear the phone though. Maybe I should hang up.
Let's hang up the phone and you get to work.
Okay, thanks. I'll call you right back. I'll call you back. Thanks. San Francisco, fascinating city to live in. It's handsome at a fair distance. Close at hand, one notes that the architecture is mostly old-fashioned. Many streets are made up of decaying wooden houses. Even the kindly climate is sometimes pleasanter when read about and personally experienced. Well, nobody ever wears summer clothing, and you do not use overcoats, and you do not use fans. It is as pleasant a climate as can well be contrived. Well, the wind blows there a good deal in the summer months, but then you can go over to Oakland, and it's only snowed twice in San Francisco in 19 years. And then it only remained on the ground long enough to astonish the children. And along in the summer, when you suffered about 4 months of lustrous, pitiless sunshine, oh, you're ready to go down on your knees and plead for rain, hail, snow, thunder, and lightning. Anything to break the monotony. Oh, you'll take an earthquake. And chances are you'll get that too. For a few months, I enjoyed what to me was an entirely new phase of existence. Butterfly eyeless, nothing to do, nobody to be responsible to, and untroubled with financial uncertainties. I fell in love with the most cordial and sociable city in the Union. Well, San Francisco was paradise to me. I lived at the best hotel, attended private parties in sumptuous evening dress, polkaed with a step peculiar to myself and the kangaroo. I kept the due state of a man worth $100,000 and likely to reach absolute affluence when that silver mine sale should be ultimately achieved in Nevada. But then, all of a sudden, out went the bottom and everything went to ruin. Oh, my hoarded stocks were not worth the paper they were printed on. I had not now as much as $50. Well, I removed from the hotel to a very private boarding house. I took a reporter's berth, went to work. Oh, a month afterwards, I enjoyed my first earthquake. It was one which was long called the Great Earthquake, 65, and Oh, his doll is so distinguished till this day. Oh, it was just afternoon. I was coming down 3rd Street. All was solitude and a Sabbath stillness. As I turned the corner, there was a great rattle and jar, and well, it occurred to me that here was an item, no doubt a fight in a house. But before I could turn to seek the door, there came a really terrific shock. The ground seemed to roll under me in waves, interrupted by violent joggling up and down. I fell up against a framed house, hurt my elbow. Well, I knew what it was now. And at that moment, a third and still severer shock came. And as I reeled about on the pavement, trying to keep my footing, I saw a sight. The entire front of a 4-story brick building on 3rd fell sprawling across the street. Every door of every house, as far as the eye could reach, was vomiting a stream of human beings. Gentlemen and ladies who were sick or taking a siesta thronged into the streets in all sorts of queer apparel. And some without any at all. A prominent editor flew down the stairs in the principal hotel with nothing on but one brief undergarment, met a chambermaid and exclaimed, "What shall I do? Where shall I go?" She responded, "Well, if you have no choice, you might try a clothing store." A minister was closing the services. He glanced up and said, "Keep your seats. There is no better place to die than this." And then added after the 3rd shock, "But outside is good enough." And he went out the back door. Well, the earthquake episodes that formed the staple of San Francisco gossip would fill a book. So I will diverge from the subject. Well, after 3 months' absence in the Sandwich Islands, found myself in San Francisco again, without employment. I tortured my brain for a saving scheme of some kind. And at last, a public lecture occurred to me. I sat down and wrote one, showed it to several friends, but they all said nobody would come to hear me and that I would make a humiliating failure of it. Well, I was disconsolate now. But at last an editor told me, go ahead, take the largest house in town, charge $1 a ticket. Well, the audacity of the proposition was charming and seemed fraught with practical worldly wisdom, however. But the proprietor of several theaters endorsed the advice and said I might have McGuire's Academy of Music on Pine Street at half price. $50. Well, I took it on credit. I did $150 worth of advertising and was the most frightened creature on the Pacific coast. Oh, I could not sleep. Who could under such circumstances? My lecture, which had seemed humorous to me at first, grew more and more dreary till not a vestige of fun seemed left. Oh, I was so panic-stricken. I went to the wife of a popular citizen and said, "This thing is going to be a failure. The jokes in it are so dim, nobody will ever see them." I would be glad if she and her husband would sit in the left-hand stage box where the whole house could see them. I explained I should need help and were to turn towards her and smile as a signal when I'd been delivered of an obscure joke. Oh, and then added, "Don't wait to respond." She promised. Oh, down the street, I met a man. He'd been drinking, was beaming with smiles, good-natured. He said, "My name is Tom Sawyer. You don't know me. I haven't got a cent. But if you knew how much I wanted to laugh, you'd give me a ticket." Well, is your laugh hung on a hair trigger? Can you get it off easy, I asked. Well, I gave him a ticket, appointed him to sit in the center, be responsible for that division of the. Well, I ate nothing on the last day, only suffered. I crept down to the theater at 4 in the afternoon to see if any sales had been made. The box office was locked up. No sales? Oh, I might have known it. Oh, I thought of suicide, pretended illness, flight. Oh, I thought of all these things in earnest, for I was very miserable and scared. But, of course, I had to drive them away and prepare to meet my fate. I could not wait for 7:30. I wanted to face the horror and end it. The feeling of many a man doomed to hang, no doubt. Well, I entered the theater by the back door. The house was gloomy, silent, and depressing. I went into the dark among the scenery, and for an hour and a half gave myself up to the horrors. Uh, uh, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of Peter. And then I heard a murmur. It rose higher and higher and ended in a crash, mingled with cheers. It made my hair raise. It was so close to me and so loud. There was a pause, and then another, and then another, and before I well knew what I was about, I was standing in the middle of the stage, staring at a sea of faces. Bewildered by the fierce glare of the lights, and quaking in every limb with a terror that seemed to take my life away. The house was full. Oh. Well, the tumult in my heart and brain and legs continued for a full minute before I could gain any command over myself. But then I recognized the friendliness in the faces before me, and little by little my fright melted away, and I began to walk. Oh, within 3 or 4 minutes, I was comfortable. My chief allies, all ready to make an onslaught upon the feeblest joke that might show its head, and whenever a joke did fall, their faces seemed to split from ear to ear. Well, presently I delivered a bit of serious matter, and audience listened with an absorbed hush that gratified me more than any applause. And as I dropped the last word of the clause, I happened to turn and catch Mrs. O'Leary's waiting eye. Oh, my conversation with her flashed upon me, and in spite of all I could do, I smiled. And he took it for the signal and promptly delivered a mellow laugh that touched off the whole audience. Well, the explosion that followed was the triumph of the evening. All the papers were kind in the morning. My appetite returned. I had an abundance of money. All's well that ends well. Well, I launched out as a lecturer now with great boldness. I took an old friend along to play agent for me, and for a tour to California. Had a very cheerful time of it. When I returned to San Francisco, I projected a pleasure journey to Japan and thence westward around the world. But the desire to see home again changed my mind. I bade goodbye to San Francisco, the friendliest and hardiest community on the continent. Thank you for this test run